One of the problems with storing videotape for a long time is sometimes the tape goes moldy. And when that happens, you can't play it back. Well, you can play it back. The problem is it breaks every couple of minutes. I'll show you guys a procedure to try to save your tapes when this has happened to it. It's time consuming, but usually you can win this battle. So this is another moldy tape that I got. This one's a Fuji. Usually this is something I saw with a lot of Sonys, but this tape is a Fuji. You can see the mold on it, and indeed when the tape was attempted to be played, the tape broke. So I'm going to demold this tape just so I can do a recovery of it, and I figured I'd show you guys again how it's done, because I've had a few people that have asked lots of questions about moldy tapes and how to go about recovering it. You can certainly do it. It's time consuming, quite time consuming, but you really don't have much of an alternative, because the tape itself will not play in the condition that it is. It is going to tear the tape, and I'll show you how it tears. It usually tears in long strips, and basically what we need to do is we need to wind this tape and remove the mold, or break the bond of the mold while we're doing that. So first things first, let's de-shell the tape. So open it up. And we need to remove the two reels of tape. Here's where you can see all the mold. You can see it on the tape itself here. You see between the reel and the tape. And what happens when the mold touches the edge of the tape, as the tape tries to unspool, it will tear the tape in a thin strip, and they always tear the same way. Turn on some lights. So if I find the edge of the tape where the tape is torn, I need to get the edge of the tape out. Now, first things first, I need to splice the tape. The problem is if I try to unravel the tape, it's gonna tear again. So what we need to do is we need to put some constant tension on the tape to break the bond of the mold. So how we do that is we're going to take the tape, we're going to hold the reel in our hand, and we're just going to pull gently on the tape. What we want to do is we want to pack the tape tighter. So if we watch the tape pack inside, the tape pack's going to turn. And while it does that, it's actually going to separate from the mold. And we'll try not to damage anymore. We're going to lose a little bit off this tape just because of the way it's damaged. But if we pull this enough, we can separate the mold between the tape layers. And then hopefully we can spool it onto the take-up spool again. So now what I need to do is I need to splice the tape. Now you can see there's damage right here as well. So we're going to lose this little section of tape. I'm going to cut this here, and we're going to splice just with some adhesive tape. And then basically I'm going to spool it all from one spool over to the other. And while I'm doing it, I'm going to keep a constant tension, keep tugging the tape every time it starts to stick a bit. As you can see from the take-up spool side of the tape, they always, when they always tear diagonally. This affects 8mm tapes more than other types of tapes, although it will also affect DV. So what we need to do is we need to remove the damaged section of tape. Again, you're going to lose a few seconds. There's really nothing you can do about that. But at least we're going to be able to recover the vast majority of the video. So cut the bad section out. We're going to tape it together just with standard Scotch or magic tape. It doesn't matter, because we only need to get one play off this tape. Once we get the one play, the tape itself can go in the garbage. So the adhesive tape goes obviously on the back side. Of the tape, just like that. And then again for the side that's going to be spliced. And then we just need to trim off any adhesive that could come in contact with the heads. So we're going to trim into the tape just a little bit. Just like that. Doesn't need to be perfect, as long as we don't have any adhesive tape. There's going to be a disruption as it goes over the heads, and if you do this right, you won't damage the heads, and you won't even clog them as a rule. So that is now spliced. As you can see, I've trimmed into the tape so that there's no adhesive on the signal side of the tape, which would make contact with the head. So that tape, that splice is good. So now I just need to spool up the tape and unspool it from the supply side. I find it's faster if I use something like a bit from a screwdriver, and then I can turn it. Now I want to make sure that I'm not going to tear any tape, so usually what I do is I help it along. This is a time-consuming process. This could take, you know, several minutes to an hour or so, and we want to, of course, stretch and pull this tape as we're doing this, just to keep the tape separating from the mold, because if it sticks, it's going to tear. So we just constant tension, and then we can spool it up. Once you get all the mold to the point where it's no longer sticking, you can actually turn it fairly quickly. But you can see where it's sticking as it comes off. But it doesn't take much for the tape to tear either, so you got to be really quite careful when you do this. While you're doing this, don't be surprised if it breaks again. We try not to, but it can. Once you've sufficiently stretched the tape, and we're not stretching the tape, we're just causing the tape to pack tighter onto the take-up or the supply spool. So when we pull the tape and it packs tighter, it slips between the layers, and that's what breaks the bond of the mold. So once we've got the mold sufficiently bonded, now see, every so often you'll see a piece that might appear to stick. So then we've got to go back and we've got to carefully try to pull it again a little tighter, just to break a little more of a bond there, because there will be bits and pieces that do stick, and hopefully it won't tear the tape. If it does, then we have to splice it again. But you know, this is the only way we're going to get this tape. And we can also spool it out like this, and that'll give us an idea of where it might be likely to stick. But this means the difference between being able to recover a tape and not. So the only other option would be to throw the tape out. And if you've got a once-in-a-lifetime recording on here, this gets expensive. I mean, if you send your tapes out, there's places commercially that will do this, and they will charge you upwards of $400 per tape to do exactly what I'm doing here. So I'm trying to save you guys money. I've shown this before. I've shown how this has been done in previous videos, and I just get people that ask me to show it again. So I'm doing another one. I do lots of tape recoveries It's usually people that don't store their tapes properly. Very carefully unrolling the tape. Now someone's going to say, why aren't you wearing gloves? I don't need to wear gloves. You should wear a face mask when you're doing this, because obviously you don't want to breathe the mold, and I am wearing a face mask right now. So anyway, I'm going to continue this, and when I get to the end, then I should be able to rewind the tape and it not break. There shouldn't be any on this side because it got to that point before it snapped. So all the damage is on this side, but you can see it on the reel here. You can see it on the tape. So we're gonna stretch this a little more here, if I can. They'll get to a point where it's so tightly packed that you can't stretch anymore, and it won't turn. I don't want to damage the tape, so you don't want to tug too hard, but at the same time you have to put enough tension on there to kind of separate the layers of tape. I'm so glad that videotape days are done. I just probably upset somebody who's out there watching this who's just bought their first tape-based camera because they think that recording on tape is cool. I'm sure glad though this is done, because all these tapes were ticking time bombs. The next ticking time bomb, of course, is going to be all the people that put their videos onto USB sticks and leave them there. We won't go down that road, because I have a customer that's in that same situation where she had me put all of her tapes onto USB stick, and I told her, so let's put it onto a DVD as well as a backup. And she informed me that she did not have a DVD player and therefore did not want it on DVD. She just wanted it on a USB stick. That was, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago. And I told her at the time, I said, make a copy of everything and put it on your computer. Back everything up. And, well, she did not heed my advice. And now she's got a USB stick that won't play. It's lost the data on there, and she no longer has the tapes because she went and threw all the tapes away once she had transferred everything over, thinking that she would not need the tapes anymore, and gave me her camcorder. She had an old camcorder that was shot, so she gave me the camcorder, and it's one that I still have, incidentally. It was a DCR TRV 720, I believe. It was the one that all the fuses were popped in the back, and the firewire out does not work on it anymore. The firewire board failed on it, but blew a bunch of fuses. I replaced the fuses, and the camera works. It records and plays, but it only outputs analog. It will not output a firewire signal. But she gave me the old camera when I transferred all her stuff over. So if you go back and look at when I did that video on the DCR TRV 720, that'd be about the time I transferred all of her tapes over to USB stick, and she went and put the USB stick away and didn't copy it, and now she's upset because all the material on her USB stick is lost, and she threw away her tapes. And somehow that's my problem, because she's phoned me and asked me if there's anything I can do, and I tried to play her USB stick. There's nothing on it. I said, sorry, I don't keep backups of everyone's material. That's why I told you to copy it. As you can see, I'm doing pretty good on this one. I haven't broken the tape again. It seems to be spooling off here quite nicely. Nothing sticking. So once this is done, I will put it back in the shell, and I will put it on my tape rewinder. My Sony tape rewinder, rewind it on that, and then transfer the tape over to a DVD. Watch there be nothing on the tape. This client brought me about 30 tapes, and many of the tapes have like 5 minutes on it, and the rest of the tape is blank. So watch this whole portion here, all be blank. Be like 5 or 10 minutes on the beginning of the tape, and then the rest of it blank. I mean, it could be completely full, but there's a chance that everything beyond what was already in the camera. Maybe like that may have been where they stopped it and put it away and didn't rewind it. Don't know. But as you can see, this is coming along pretty good now. What I'm using to turn the tape hub is just a standard, this is just a standard bit like you'd use. It came out of my Pickwick bit, just a standard bit, 1/4 inch. To do mini DV, you use the smaller one, which is like the smaller Pickwick. This is the size for a mini DV, but these work great for spooling tapes. As you can see, this is not taking as long as some of them could because I've got the tape free. Obviously I've got it sitting on a piece of paper here just so that I don't pick up dust off the bench. As I got down to the last bit of tape, I'm seeing a bit more stiction here, so we'll just do the same here. We'll just try to tighten this up just a little bit. There's probably nothing recorded at this point of the tape. I'm sure they've probably finished the recording by now, but we do need to get all the tape over so that I can verify that there's something or nothing there. You can hear some of the mold. As it separates. Must be getting pretty close to the end of this reel now. There it is. So there's the end of the reel. So now I can take the tape and put it back into the housing. And the top cover. So it's on like that. And then the 5 screws that hold it together. And then I can go get the rewinder and we'll rewind it and make sure it doesn't break on rewind. It shouldn't, it should go back smoothly, I would think, at this point. And then I'll grab it and put it in the playback machine and make a quick copy of it. To also rewind and pack the tape properly. This is probably the most expensive tape rewinder that was ever sold. They were several $100s. I've got the door for it somewhere around, because I think the first time I showed it off it had the door on it, and then it broke, and then the door got taken off and it's sitting in a drawer somewhere. I just haven't found it. It's probably sitting in the filing cabinet somewhere where this was stored. With my luck, it fell down behind the cabinet and it's in the bottom. Now we should be getting past the point where the tape had broken. Neat thing about this rewinder is when it stops, you'll see it actually rolls the tape forward before it ejects it. Like all proper 8mm tape rewinders should, because of the way the 8mm tape system threaded. They pulled the tape off the take-up slide. See, it goes forward several turns before it ejects. Anyway, let's we'll try this out in the camera and see how it plays. All that effort for what is probably something that they don't even want. It's a dead whale that's beached itself, and they filmed them removing their carcass from the beach. That's what's on this tape. I don't know if there's anything else on the tape, but that's what's on the tape at the beginning as they're removing. They got a big crane there, a big excavator. They're running an excavator out so they can hoist this thing up off the beach that's stinking up the beach. That's what's on this tape. All that effort. I don't know that they're even going to want it, but I'm going to transfer it for them anyway. Interested, this is the camera I'm using. This is the modified Digital 8 camera that I got given to me. I had two of these ones given to me, but one of them, the mechanism was totally shot on, and somebody else sent me, guy sent me this one that he cut the hand grip off of and everything, right? So viewer sent me this one. It's a donation, but the problem with this one is it doesn't play back analog tapes. It only plays back digital. This is a DCR TRV 250, and this is a DCR TRV 240, which has analog playback. So I pulled the mechanism, there's a video on it, but I pulled the mechanism from that one and put it onto this one. And then, because you get tapes that are damaged and contaminate heads, I modified this one. I modified the cover on this one so that the cover can be removed, so they can access the head drum without having to take it apart. There's a video on that too. Anyway, I use this one for my transfer work. I've got two of these, and when this one finally packs it in for the final time, I'll do the same for the other one. I'll mod the cover so that I can, or put this cover on the other one so I can use it for recovering tapes. So this has become my tape recovery camera because, well, it'll play 8mm high 8 and digital 8, and it's easy to clean the heads after that mod. Anyway, thanks for watching.